did we actually discuss the issue we wanted to?
I think so.
I
Is
wonder
there
if it was-
somebody else you wanna get that?
Give it a second.
Call from person John.
It's John. John, hi.
Greg, everything you're saying to Betsy can be heard by everybody.
Thank you, John.
Oh, hi, John.
Harry, this is Chuck. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Do we got everyone back?
Do a little survey here. Massimo's there, Joe Chadwick, Marcy, Joe Vayuso, I'm assuming, and Fred. So I think we're all set.
Okay.
And Sharon, I think, is there. Well, Sharon's just got her picture, but I think she's
Yeah,
there.
I'm
She is.
back.
Okay. Okay. All
Aaron
right.
is back. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Great. Is Marcy back?
Marcy's back too. I think. Well, she had her picture. I saw her a second ago.
Right. Okay. And Joe's raising his hand.
Yeah. Let me make sure he's. I think there's feedback there. So Joe, I muted you because I think you've got some feedback going on.
You are unmuted.
Okay.
Harry, this is Massimo. I'm gonna log off and log back on because I could hardly hear you guys. Something must
Okay.
happen with the volume.
All right. I'll look for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. There was an echo. There's an echo right now. What is that?
I think that Joe. I think that's you. If you've got the audio from, if you're watching it on Facebook or YouTube or something, some other device or BCTV,
Yeah, it stopped when
it just stopped. Yeah. Okay.
He
Great.
muted himself. So
Yeah, I think there's no way to set him up with the phone. He's either muted or he has to ask to be unmuted, I think. So we'll just have to watch that.
okay.
So we're getting back into session. I'll start recording if
Is Massimo back?
he will be in a second. There he is. Okay. Okay. It should be co-host Massimo. Be able to unmute yourself. There you are.
Yep.
Okay.
Recording
you.
in progress.
Okay, we'll call this our meeting back into session, and we'll continue with our public hearing items. We're now on items number 5 and 6. That's Faulkner Island Development LLC applicant, Anthony LaSala owner, 1201 West Main Street, special exception coastal site plan for motor vehicle service, and also special exception for grading. This is an application that we heard. I had a public hearing on over a number of evenings. We were having a time crunch. We had requested a independent traffic review of this, and what the applicant did is, because we are running against the time limits, is we withdrew the application and resubmitted it, essentially allowing us to continue this matter. So with that, is the applicant ready to proceed?
Yes, we are. Thank you. So my name is Tim Hool, civil engineer from BL Companies, here to represent the applicant. With me tonight, I do have Mike Kirker from BL on our traffic team, and then from the applicant side, there's Jeff and Adam Kimberly. So as Chuck mentioned, we presented this project previously under a different application, same project through a number of different meetings over the course of late spring and summer. Essentially, the core of the project is the same as previous. We're looking at 1201 West Main Street. I will begin screen sharing now. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So the property in question is at the intersection of Route 1 and Route 146. So on this plan here, this is kind of a zoomed out view. This actually is a new plan sheet from what we had in the original set. We added it specifically to provide a little more context here, zoomed out a bit. Route 1 is across the bottom, and then 146 kind of comes across this left side. The site we're looking at is immediately adjacent to the Chase Bank site. It's about 0.4 acres, 0.46 to be exact, located in this direction. We do have a vacant lot immediately to our plan left, which would be to the east-northeast direction. Specifically, the lot in question that we're looking at, like I said, 1201, it is currently vacant. Historically, had a single-family home on it. Right now, it is wooded with primarily small diameter vegetation. There's a handful of specimen trees, 12 inches in diameter or larger. Those are shown on our survey plan and select other plan sheets. You might be able to see a few of them kind of coming through the middle here. There's only a handful through the property. The rest really is small diameter, young growth. There are no wetlands on the site. However, there is a wetland offsite to the rear. We did go before inland wetlands and receive approval from inland wetlands back in July. For the proposed development, we are looking at the same building program as previously, roughly 1,735 square foot, single story slab on grade building. The use is a drive-through oil change facility. The intended business that will occupy it is Take 5. They are a national auto service provider. Jeff and Adam Kimberly are the franchisee for Connecticut. They have a number of other facilities in the state, looking to expand here in Branford. Specific uses that will be performed in this facility are very limited. The Branford regulations, use regulations specifically target auto repair uses that either need a limited or a full repairer's license with the state of Connecticut. The uses proposed here actually do not fall under either of those. They are exempt because they are so limited in nature. And to clarify that, partially at the request of SLR in a peer review comment, and also to document the true limited nature and uses, we did submit a statement of use document to clarify what these uses are. The primary function is oil change. Customers drive through into the building themselves. They don't ever leave the vehicle. They stay in their car while the service is happening. There are very limited accessory or ancillary services that may be performed. Those are limited to replacement of wiper blades, engine air filter, cabin air filters, coolant exchanges, and the addition of fuel injection cleaner. All told, the average service time, including these ancillary services, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 minutes, and roughly a third of the customers that go through the facility add on these ancillary services. So in total, we have located the building kind of in the central location of the lot here. We're proposing 10 parking spaces, although, as I mentioned, the use is for customers to drive through into the facility themselves. They don't ever get out of the vehicle, so the parking here really is for employees. There's 3 employees at any given time, so more parking than what the use requires. It is less than zoning requires. However, we did request that the commission consider counting the repair bays and the one queuing stall out behind the each repair bay as a parking stall. Again, given the drive-through use here, we feel that is appropriate. And in the staff memo, the planning staff did include their take on it, which was generally favorable with the reduction in formal parking spaces. In total, we've got right at the impervious coverage limitations on the lot. We're at 59% proposed out of the 60 required. Building coverage is well under. We're at about 9%. Building height, well under the requirement. We're at about 29 feet for the maximum of 40. Proposing for utility connections to have a 1-inch domestic water service heading out towards the main, running towards Route 1. No fire suppression service, as the building and the use are under the state regulations, do not require it. Sanitary sewer will connect out to the main in the green space along Route 1. We are actually exploring and currently requesting to switch from an on-site oil water separator to a building's interior under the sink style. We have discussed this with the water pollution control facility manager as well as the town engineer, and they're on board with this swap. And we did recognize and confirm with them the next step from here. Should we get approval, we do have to go to WPCA for their approval, and the oil water separator would be in their jurisdiction at that time. But again, they are supportive of that with the product information that we submitted. We are also proposing a natural gas service out, again, connecting to the main in the public right of way, and electric and telecommunications as well. The electric and telecommunications will all be underground. For stormwater design, we do have a full on-site system. I'll quickly jump to, this is a bit of a zoomed in plan. There are two separate systems here on site. We have a larger system underground in the front to provide the necessary infiltration and treatment. And then there's a smaller system in the rear. Essentially, all the runoff from the developed areas is captured in catch basins or trench drains, treated in isolator rows in the infiltration system itself to get the necessary treatment levels required by the deep stormwater guidelines. We do have an overflow out from those systems in higher storm events that goes out towards the DOT system out in the street. That connection is coming down this side of the driveway. We do have a catch basin in the driveway itself and then connecting over into the DOT system. The stormwater has all been reviewed as a part of this, the previous application. There's no outstanding stormwater comments. We do meet the necessary pre-development and post-development peak rate mitigation requirements as well as volume. We also include a full site lighting system in the design. Site lighting has been included in the plan set. At this time, there's really no outstanding comments on that. Light is all contained within the site, and it meets the town requirements for pole height, fixture style, night, dark sky compliant, and so on. And then we also include a pretty comprehensive landscaping plan. As you can see, this is kind of the site itself is fairly developed, but ringing around the core area of the site, there's very little area left unplanted. And by planted, I mean not loam and seed. I mean actual, woody vegetation. So we have around the building itself, there's some shrubs and perennials kind of in the strategic corners where we have space to fit them. Around the front of the parking area, we have, again, some vegetation for screening and providing visual interest. We do have a few parking lot trees as required. And then ringing the perimeter of the property, there's a quite extensive row of evergreens to screen the property and the development. I mean, this is very substantial. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the numbers, but we're getting up in the neighborhood of, we're certainly approaching 100 trees on this site between some of the larger trees and some of the shrubs that get into, medium sizes as well for screening the parking lot uses. I would like to highlight a couple of the key revisions we have made since the previous application. Since the initial application, we have widened the driveway around the planned left side of the building. The very initial submission back in May had this as a one-way drive aisle. Upon comment from town staff, we have widened this to two-way. We revised the grading again, and that from the initial application to the second submission back in the summer. The grading was revised. We now have a 2 retaining wall system. All grading is now in compliance with the regulations for slopes, retaining wall heights, separation between the tiers, and all those components. Stormwater was revised through the process as a result of obtaining field infiltration rates. The initial was based on some estimated data based on test pits nearby. That was updated with specific ones on site. There's been updates to erosion control, largely as driven by and discussed through inland wetlands. We added a sidewalk connection here as requested by town staff and through the peer review process up into the site from Route 1. And then also we extended the sidewalk from the Route 1 where it ends now through the driveway and to the other side, kind of extending up Route 146 a little bit. One of the comments for landscaping that we did address was adding plantings to screen headlights from the street. I did show that we do have that along kind of this street side of the parking lot. That was a comment that we addressed. And then the biggest item that we worked through was specifically with this driveway location. This was a point that we worked very diligently with throughout this process. As you may recall, it's been a common topic here. Originally, we had a full access in, meaning customers could take a right in from Route 1, from either approach of Route 1. It would be a right-hand turn in, or they could take a left turn in coming down 146 towards the intersection. They would be allowed to take a left in. And then we've always had a right out. Upon hearing some of the concerns from collectively the neighborhood and town staff, we volunteered to reduce this down to a right in, right out. I would like to share that that was never formally required or requested in any comment letter. DOT never requested that be reduced to a right in, right out. That is something we elected to do upon hearing the concerns. And one of the comments through this process was to analyze the sight lines for this driveway to verify that motorists traveling in this general vicinity have enough distance to safely stop should there be a delay for traffic entering the site. That plan is provided in this set. That was one of the peer review comments that we did have. So we looked at it in two different directions, but the site distances are all meeting the requirements for DOT's site distance analysis. So specifically, the exiting turning movement has adequate sight lines looking back over their left shoulder up Route 1. Again, kind of looking towards that Aldi's area. And then also, although there really is very limited need to look at the traffic coming down 146 to the intersection, we do have ample sight lines looking in that direction as well. And perhaps the more critical movement that we were looking at is the sight lines for traffic that is already on the road, primarily on Route 1, to verify that they have time to stop should there be a car trying to turn into the driveway that maybe is blocked for a pedestrian crossing the driveway. So what we've shown here is the stopping sight distance for cars who are taking the right onto 146 from Route 1 or the left onto 146 from Route 1. Again, verifying that if there is a car stopped here trying to enter the site, that motorists making this turning movement onto 146 have clear lines of sight so that they can safely stop without colliding with motorists that are stopped. So in total, we feel we've been very proactive here, trying to address as many of the traffic comments as possible. We have located the driveway in what we feel is the best location, given the challenging site that we're at, right at the intersection. And we've really worked with the peer reviewer who has noted in the latest memo that we've satisfied all their comments, town staff, and the commission to hopefully address as many of the concerns as possible. So I guess with that, it will go to Harry for a staff memo.
Check in to share. Thank you, Mr. Hula. Yes, that's correct. We'll turn it over to Mr. Smith. Harry, you want to review the staff memo with us?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. Sure. Let me start sharing my screen. So I'm going to highlight a couple things and then sort of go through my memo as quickly as I can reasonably do it, given the hour. One thing was noted was this property would be connected into the town sewer system. Today, I just got an email or an email memo clarifying comment from the town engineer and reiterating that that would need approval from the WPCA. There is no grandfathered status to the capacity for this property. And as I mentioned in the public hearings for the prior applications, there has been a concern brought forward that there is a capacity study for another property within the, if you will, sewer shed, the area that, including this property that goes to a pumping station that sends all the sewerage to the wastewater treatment facility in Block Island Road. So at this point, there's no indication that there is capacity, though the demands from this site, I understand, to be very small. In view of that, the engineer is not really objected to including as a potential condition on any potential approval. And I'll get into that in a minute, that the before anything's done on the site, before the approval is effective, that the WPCA state that there's capacity to tie this development into the sewer system. So that's that issue. On the significant trees, I do see, and you can see my screen here. I assume that these are all significant trees. I did not see that these are noted anywhere on this sheet of the plans that they are in fact significant trees. What we see provided by other applicants is basically a statement: oak, approximate diameter of the tree, 36 inches, 24 inches, whatever it is, whatever the species is in general. I don't know. That's typically what's provided. There's nothing in the regulations to require that specificity, but it does need to be noted that these are significant trees. So providing, I think there's a legend here. I don't know if there's an indication for a tree. I can't read it at this level of detail, but they would need to be noted as significant trees on this sheet. And I'm proposing a condition to that effect later on. And going to next sheet here, these are all shown with X's. It's hard to see them, but clearly all these significant trees that are present are proposed to be removed, is my understanding, to accomplish the site development. So that should be stated. So the X's here, there's a whole listing of things that are, being X'd out, if you will, demolished. So there should be a separate category, or in that where it says trees, it should say, significant trees. So that's clear. That's required by the regulations. I'll defer to Anthony Russo, our peer reviewed traffic consultant, to make any comments he wishes to make about the how the applicants responded to his previous comments from the other applications. I am recommending an erosion and sedimentation control bond be established, given that the entire site will be stripped of vegetation. The development of this would be somewhat similar, if you will, to the Aldi's, adjoining Aldi's and Chase Bank site. So it'd be definitely needed for monitoring dust creation and dust suppression on site, keeping the E&S controls in a constant state of repair and that kind of thing. So with that, I'm just going to go through my staff report here. And what I did was I took the report for the prior applications and I added annotation to it that's in all caps after reviewing the most recent revised plan from September. And also just want to state for the record, I did in my staff report, the entire record of the applications, number 24-5.4 and 24-7.4, which have been withdrawn, have been included in the record of these 2 new applications. So we will actually do that as a matter of record for this. Okay, and I just explained the comments, and that I've kept all the text from the previous comments. So I'm just going to highlight things that have not been addressed. So I'm just going to fly through these and talk about site layout, table uses, the applicability of the access management district. There was information provided previously regarding the barriers to creating joint access or creating access through adjoining properties. So I think that is within the commission's memories. If you want that elaborated on, you can request the applicants to discuss that again. I think it was at a meeting, I believe in August that was discussed. And again, this is the comment I made about significant trees. Those 2 sheets need to be, wording needs to be added to them to address that. That's been addressed. Landscaping. I do want to mention, just highlight, and maybe the, after I'm done, Tim, you could go through the types of plantings that are proposed and whether they're natives or non-natives. That's not a requirement in the regulations, but it's been a comment that's been raised at other meetings, and we're trying to encourage applicants to use natives as much as possible. In terms of the parking requirements, they covered this in the last applications. But basically looked at a similar facility does oil changes at Jiffy Lube down close to the East New Haven line. And for 3 service bays, they provided the 10 spaces that are also proposed on this site plan. So that seems to be something that would support the commission finding that it's a use not covered in the parking table, and that it's specific and different than the rest of the motor vehicle repair requirements, which require the additional spaces per service bay. So I think I'm comfortable with staff recommending again that the only provision of only 10 spaces with the 3 service bays is consistent with what's been done in the past. Lighting's been addressed. This requirement for slopes not to exceed 2-on-1 during construction was acknowledged in a comment letter that was included with the new applications, as well as the addition of a note on the plans that the site work must conform to all the requirements of section 6.8. The provision of topsoil stockpile area has been addressed. Need to comply with dust and erosion control. That would be an ongoing requirement. It's covered by a proposed condition. Any blasting, even though none is proposed, I've covered that in the condition in terms of, well, if they get to the point where they would like to propose blasting, I've proposed a condition to spell out the process that would need to be followed to get the approval to do that, outside of the normal fire marshal's blasting permit process. There's a statement from the applicant that there's requirement of the regulations to say where the earth material deposition is going to occur. The applicant stated, hey, we don't do that until we pick a contractor to do the site work, and they will have their preferred location for disposal of excess earth material. So I've addressed that in a proposed condition. Fixed machinery for rock crushing and things like that. They're not proposing any of that either. The note, we've already talked about this, the note that requires compliance by the contractor with 6.8s on the plans. I did mention previously, there was a note on the plans that would be a crusting agent applied possibly, and they did provide additional information about that. So I think this is addressed. Again, There is a requirement in the regulations that there be submittal and approval of the design of retaining walls that are over 3 feet in height, and that the design needs to be prepared by a professional engineer. I think that can be required prior to the start of construction or the approval of zoning permit, and I've addressed that in proposed condition. I've outlined here, as I did in prior staff reports, all the special exception criteria and the comments about that. The applicant responding to some of this noted a sidewalk has been added along entire frontage. That was explained a few minutes ago. Erosion control measures proposed in the plans. With respect to these criteria about traffic, I'll let Mr. Russo address that. But I have noted here that, as was mentioned previously by the applicant team, all the comments that have been made by Mr. Russo, he stated in the memo, have been addressed. Again, I talked about the sewer capacity issues, and a proposed condition to address that. Also, site plan will need a finding. The really only potential concern is the additional stormwater runoff to be generated by the site, and it's been a design proposed to handle that. Has been reviewed and approved by the town engineer. Pedestrian access has been addressed. And finally, there was a permit issued for a previous version of these plans by the Inland Wetlands Commission. We did receive something from the Inland Wetlands director that the minor changes in this plan don't require any further approval from the Inland Wetlands Commission. So I proposed several findings here and a number of conditions, standard findings about compliance with the special exception criteria in the coastal site plan finding, and also a statement, as I just mentioned, about the approval of the activities within jurisdiction of the Inland Wetlands Agency, approved by them. A lot of these conditions are standard things we put on other applications. This one in particular, though, has to do with the peer review. There is a provision in the town ordinance that the payment be made prior to the commission making a decision on the application. At this point, we have Mr. Russo here, so essentially the clock is still running. So we don't have a final number for the invoice. It's my understanding. So what this would require is that the special exception approval, should you commission choose to issue it, would not be considered effective until payment is made for those services provided by the traffic peer reviewer. And that if the applicant decides to file a notice of decision on the land records before we get the payment, that would not constitute compliance with the requirements of zoning regulations or that section of state law that requires filing of the approval.
Harry, if I could just interrupt for 1 second, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I did send the final invoice over to the town today.
Okay, I wasn't clear that included your services tonight, so that's...
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Great. All right. So, so this was a typical condition just requiring compliance with the approved plans and the construction of the property, and that any changes would need approval either by staff or commission scope, requiring all the revisions of the plans as a complete set of submitted plans. These are a number of things that need to happen prior to any construction activity, including tree removal or clearing on the site, to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. Again, as I mentioned, approval from the Water Pollution Control Authority. That capacity exists to allow the proposed development to be connected to the town sewer system. Documentation regarding the destination of any earth materials, a pre-construction meeting with the following folks, installation construction fencing on limit of disturbance. I would note, I think the limit of disturbance line was really just to show it as so people could see it on the plans, was tweaked just over the property line. So of course that is going to have to be modified to be located entirely on the property. Installation, sedimentation, and roll. erosion control measures, and submittal of the soil and erosion control financial guarantee. This is a typical condition about lighting, the fixed non-adjustable arm mounts, and I think this is already addressed in the approved lighting plan, but we include that just to be clear about how the fixtures are being mounted. Again, no blastings proposed or approved. Any blasting would require further approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission through a modification of this special exception approval, and would need to do the following. We would need additional information, specify the amount of the blasting, its location, and the documentation that offer of a pre-blast survey was made to the owners of all structures within 250 feet. So this is just in case fell out what would be expected if the need for blasting is encountered. Again, we're talking about the use of the rock crushing of fixed machinery on site. That would be prohibited without further approval through a modification of special exception approval. Topsoil, I think there's a stockpile proposed on the plans. And removal of excess topsoil is not permitted without the written approval of the commission. So the material may be removed as necessary. Special exception would expire. This is for the section 6.8 grading approval. Now, it's a provision in the regulations that expires 1 year after the date of the decision. That can be extended if needed. Foundation as-built to be required. And following down here, before the issuance of a zoning permit or zoning authorization for a building permit, need to do the following. We need final design plans for the retaining walls as discussed previously, any of them that are over 3 feet in height. And if suitable topsoil can't be reused on site, there would need to be a notation that suitable soil would be used on site to a depth of 4 inches that's required by the regulations. Here you need final approval of design of the proposed connection. Often the WPCA says, hey, the capacity exists, and I understand the design, but the connection's already been reviewed by the town engineer, but if there are any changes to that, we'll need a formal final sign off from the town engineer about, or the WPCA, but usually it's the town engineer about the details of the design for the connection. This would require the amendment of the sedimentation erosion control plan to include provision for placement of erosion control mats if determined to be necessary by the zoning officer. If it's not seasonally appropriate for final topsoil placement and seeding at the completion of site work. E requires submittal of 2 full sets of the plans. And this could stay in or go out depending on what the commission's feelings are about whether any additional natives are needed in the site, in the landscaping plan scheme. 12 is a number of items that would need to be done prior to a zoning authorization for a CO or a certificate of zoning compliance. Leave the completion of all site work or an appropriate bond, submission of final as-builts, and submittal of a financial guarantee to ensure survival of plant materials for a period of, should be in here, of 1 year. I think that's in the, I should really add in survival of plant materials for a period of 1 year. I think that is now the state law. So to add that in here. I apologize for missing that one. That's 12. And number 13 is a standard condition about no additional signage, new or replacement lighting without approval. 14 would require, again, any necessary measures to control dust generated by fill or movement of earth material on site, determined to be necessary. 15, this is another standard condition that as a requirement of approval, landscaping must be maintained as an ongoing requirement. Any landscaping element does not survive. or becomes significantly damaged would need to be replaced. 16 gets into how this really development's been proposed and approved, which is that this is not a full automotive service station use. The traffic generation numbers, how fast people move through the site is all contingent upon the limited number of services and uses that are proposed. So as was mentioned by the applicant, those include the following items that were in the statement of use dated October 25th in a letter to myself from Mr. Hool. And I would suggest here at the end of this, we probably want to add references statement of use, comma, specifically drive-through oil changes in the following products: wiper blades, air filters, cabin air filters, coolant exchange changes, and fuel injection cleaner. So that would really spell out right in here in the document what the applicant said is the scope of this, of what happens, what's on site for use. These are boilerplate conditions here. Any modification would require further approval. Since this site is going to be completely opened up, what we've done with other developments is to require monthly reports on soil and site stabilization, and including the status of erosion and sedimentation controls. If things are going along well, this allows the zoning enforcement officer to waive the need for those monthly reports, but that requirement would stand unless it's waived. Number 19 limits hours of construction 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And I don't think electric vehicle conduit or charging stations were mentioned. I thought they might have been in a previous public hearing. I just put this in here should the commission want to include it. So I'll just leave that there. At this point, Anthony, do you want to make any comments about traffic?
Sure. Thank you, Harry. And sorry to interrupt before about the invoice,
Not at
but
all. I'm glad you did.
just wanted to let you know. Anthony Russo with the firm SLR International Corporation, New Haven, Connecticut. I'll just quickly run through a couple of items, which basically describes what our review consisted of. We reviewed the traffic impact study prepared by the applicant. We reviewed the site plan prepared by the applicant, and this included looking at internal circulation, both vehicular and pedestrian. We also went out to the site and made observations, especially where the proposed driveway is to be located, to look at the site distance as you exit the driveway, and also look at stopping site distance. We expressed some concerns about that to the applicant. They did a follow-up submission where they presented tonight, where they showed that they had adequate site distance exiting vehicles, and they had adequate stopping site distance just in the event that a vehicle turning into the facility was stopped on West Main Street. One thing not mentioned, but the applicant has already said it, there is, I think, one tree that would need to be cleared in order to achieve site distance, and they've agreed that that will be done. So all in all, they've addressed all of our comments on the traffic study, and they've addressed our comments based on our field visit, which were specifically related to a lot of it to site distance and stopping site distance. In addition, SLR conducted observations and counts at an existing Take 5 oil change facility in New Jersey, just to see if the information presented by the applicant in terms of the operating characteristics and traffic characteristics in their study is accurate. During that entire day of making observations at the existing Take 5 oil change, traffic counts were conducted to determine if the trip generation presented in the traffic impact study, if it was accurate. Parking counts were conducted. Sample timing of how long it took to service customers while they were in the bay, if customers did stay in the car during that time. And that we found that the applicant's description of how the Take 5 oil change operates, both from a traffic standpoint, parking standpoint, dwell time standpoint, is consistent with what they put into the study. So we're able to confirm that the information was accurate. The other thing is, I think just prior to our involvement, I had seen one plan where it looked like it was not a right turn, right in, out only. Then later on, I was informed, and Harry and Evan showed me the plan that did have the right turn in, out, and only. In my opinion, I think that's a much better design that the applicant did, making it a right in, right out only. And I think the addition of the sidewalk is a great addition as well. It was observed at the Take 5 and oil change in Jersey that, an employee occasionally maybe left the site to pick up some food. And so they have a sidewalk along the frontage and connecting to the existing sidewalk infrastructure, I think is important. So all in all, they addressed our comments. And the observations conducted at the Take 5 oil change were, I think, helpful in understanding the operation, and that the information presented in the traffic study about that operation was accurate. So we did a thorough review, and the applicant was responsive to our comments. That's my summary on traffic.
Chuck in to share. Thank you, Mr. Russo.
You're welcome.
Okay, at this, any questions, comments from commission members before we open up to the public? Hearing, Harry?
Putner has comments.
Sharon.
Yeah. Okay. I really appreciate the applicant responding to all of the various suggestions that the commission has made, but I still have some concerns about this application. One of which is the type of business that it is. We have at least 6 other businesses like this in town, plus 2 car dealerships that do the same kind of service. I have a Subaru, and I know that Subaru has an express lane that they have installed at their dealership. So there is quite a few businesses in town that already provide this kind of service. The other fact is that more and more people are going to be buying electric vehicles, and electric vehicles don't need oil change. So the future of this kind of business may not be as robust as it has been in the past. So that's one area of concern I have, is the type of business that it is. And I don't really think Branford needs another one. The other concern I have is traffic. And again, I appreciate the fact that the applicant responded to all of the concerns that the commission had and provided us with statistics about how that intersection would look. But I live in that neighborhood, and sometimes statistics don't really reveal real life situations. And that area of that intersection is really busy, especially with the advent of Aldi's coming to town. It really is quite an unpleasant situation to go through, and I can't imagine even one more car added to the situation, let alone what they propose as 18 more cars per day. So that's another concern that I have, is about the traffic. The other concern I have is about the health of the residents in that neighborhood. Taking down of all those trees really will interfere with the ability of those people to breathe, because trees really take out a lot of the carbon dioxide out of the air. And as the applicant showed, there are at least 6 or 8 significant trees on the property. And so that would really mean that those would come down. And again, I appreciate the landscaping plan. It uses almost all native plants, and that would be wonderful, but it would take a generation for those plants to grow to where those significant trees are now. So those are my 3 areas of concern, and I would hope that the commission would deny the application. Thank you.
Chuck Anderson, Chair. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Other questions, comments from commission members? Harry?
No one else has a comment from the commission. I was just going to ask the applicant to elaborate on the number of natives. That's my recollection also, but I don't know if it's documented. I think that was a statement made, as I recall, during a public hearing about the that almost all the species of landscaping elements proposed were natives. And then if they had any comments about EVs on site.
Sure. Yeah, I can jump in here. Specifically to the plantings, I'm not a landscape architect. We do have them in-house. I can't verify myself that they are all native, but I do know that we always strive for as many native as possible, and the vast majority are native. I can certainly follow up with Harry and staff to confirm which species are. But again, I'm under the understanding that the vast majority, at a minimum, are native. And especially with the larger species, the trees and evergreens, those are primarily native. And then I think specifically the other item, the EV, we discussed EV previously. We will be adding conduit. I believe it falls under the state regulations now to provide EV ready provisions. So we do plan to do that. The location is still kind of being finalized, but that we will provide the conduit for that.
Okay.
Great. Chuck Anderson, Chair. Any further questions, comments from commission members or staff before we open up to the public?
One quick question, Joe Chadwick speaking. I'm not really clear on what is going to be left for the adjacent site when it comes time for that to be developed, and they have to put in a curb cut too. This sort of like takes an awful lot of prime, whatever that strip is, because it seems to be outside of the dotted property line, to make that entrance and exit, and sort of sweeps generously around. But if the next guy decides to try to develop their property, I don't know how adequate of an entrance they're going to be able to get. This seems to have been, I guess, an oversight on our part when the Aldi site was developed, that we never really, discussed or even sort of let enter into our consciousness the idea of collective driveways and single curb cuts for many businesses. But there seems to be a trend marching up the street now where, hey, I've got a great curb cut, and the next guy, it's their problem to figure that out. And we end up with a bunch of curb cuts on an already messy intersection. So I'm just wondering how that will be accommodated on the next site.
Sure. So quickly, if it's okay, can I screen share again, and I can show a little bit on the grading?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now. I'm zooming in a little bit to, this is actually on the site distance plan. This is probably one of the best locations to see it. We don't show the topography of this adjacent lot on any of the other plans, but specifically on the site distance plan, we needed it to verify sight lines were maintained. Really, this driveway was a very unique situation, and part of the reason why we felt it was okay to go through this this fairly unique scenario of having the driveway cross the property line extension is because of the grading here. And I guess as a precursor to my next point, we did discuss this preliminarily with town staff before our initial application was submitted, and we also discussed this with DOT on multiple occasions, that the idea of crossing the property line extension normally is not overly well received, but here, given the unique circumstances, it is a case that is acceptable here, and quite honestly, the preferred option. Really, the main driver for that was the location of the intersection and trying to get as much separation from the signal and the stop bar as possible. Specific to the impacts on the abutting lot here, if you could actually see, I'll highlight now, there is an existing curb cut to that property. That curb cut was put in place when this whole area was redesigned when the Walmart came in. What was that, like 20 years ago, give or take? And so this curb cut was installed then, and it really is a unique scenario where, given the steep topography, you can kind of see some the contours going back here at 1 foot contour intervals, that if we were to try and pull that driveway down to the other corner, regardless of whether our driveway was here or not, it would become very prohibitive to actually make the driveway work and have safe slopes and access up into the to the site and still have a flat, usable building area. So really, with the grade change that's happening here through the larger neighborhood as a whole, I'm going to jump back to the overall plan. It doesn't have the topography on it, but just to lay the groundwork here, the Aldi's and Chase Bank site is somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 feet lower than the site in question here. The abutting property is another 6 to 8 feet higher than ours, and it continues to go uphill as you extend farther up West Main Street. So with this kind of unique scenario, if this driveway for future development of this vacant lot were to come down closer to the intersection, it would require quite a significant amount of earthwork, and the driveway would end up having to extend much farther into the site to have safe access and acceptable slopes before you can get up to a flat building pad area. So it really would, at that point, become a major hindrance to the development and drastically reduce the size or type of development that you can put there.
Chuck Enders here. Thank you, Mr. Hooley. Any follow-up or additional questions from commission members or staff before we open up to the public?
Chuck, Fred Rousseau. I just want clarification. How many visits are made to the location in New Jersey on a daily basis, on average? The number of customers that they deal with. Did I hear 18? That doesn't seem like a high number.
Mr. Hooley?
So on average, Take 5 experiences around 20 customers on any given day. The New Jersey facility specifically, I am not overly familiar with. Anthony, do you have that number? I know it was same ballpark.
It's the same ballpark. Actually, the Jersey one was a little bit lower than what you had in your study, but in the same ballpark.
Mr. Russo, this is Fred Russo. No relative, no relation.
Correct.
So what would be, just overall a safe number that you would say is going to be the number of cars that are going to make it up that hill and down the hill on a daily basis? 20 cars a day, 15 cars a day?
I wouldn't put it in terms of number of cars. I would put it in terms of pure safety. In other words, and that's where we asked the question about the stopping site distance. and the sight distance coming up. But the stopping sight distance was a concern that in the event that a pedestrian is walking across that crosswalk, or in the unlikely event that a car is stopped and the car coming behind it can't get into the facility, even though it is a low generator, is there enough distance given the speeds, and they measure the speeds of people making a right turn coming from US Route 1 up that hill, would they have enough sight distance based on Connecticut DOT standards to stop? And the answer was yes. So I looked at it in terms of safety, not number of cars. That's the most important issue, I think. And then the second issue I think that's important to safety is the driveway design. Any left turns in and out of that driveway, I think would be a safety hazard and problematic. And I think they've eliminated that concern with the right in and right out only. So I think those are the most important factors, not the number of cars.
Okay,
But-
my
but the-
concern. Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
And the other thing, one of the reasons to make the observations at the Take 5 was I had experience with competitors to Take 5. And at some of these competitor locations, I've noticed they had longer dwell times, longer queues. When a bay was busy, they would back up a car from the back of the building and bring it around to the front, creating some circulation issues. And I wanted to make certain that what was presented in the study in terms of traffic generation was accurate. Because at some of their competitors, I noticed maybe they provide more services, so people stay longer, cars queue up more, there's more visits because they offer more services. So I wanted to make certain that the information, operational and from a traffic standpoint, was correct, and that was the reason for making the observations. And as I just stated, what was presented in their study was accurate. And as a matter of fact, the Jersey location had slightly lower numbers. So I didn't see this. I first was concerned it might be a greater traffic generator compared to their what I seen compared to their competitors like a Valvoline or something like that. But indeed, it was accurate, the numbers that they had in there. It is a low generator, the Take 5, given the limited services they have and how quickly they get people out. And they do follow the one-way traffic pattern. So in terms of traffic spilling back out onto the street, that's not an issue. They have a long driveway. And again, their traffic generation was low. So I can't really give you like a number and say this would be the issue. The only way that would be a critical issue is if they would cause the intersection itself they analyze the intersection of US Route 1 and Main Street. If the numbers were greater, let's say more than 100 trips in a peak hour, then I would say you get to the issue where you would probably need to analyze the intersection and see if you have an impact on it. But they're not even close to 100 trips in a peak hour. So I know normally that's kind of an informal threshold that traffic engineers use in a lot of states. If a project generates more than 100 vehicle trips in the peak hour, then you're looking at a very detailed quantified traffic analysis. We're looking at queuing, level of service, change in delay, that type of thing. But they're not anywhere near that number where that would be have any kind of significant impact from a traffic standpoint at the intersection. So maybe that's one way of getting at your question generally.
Well, I guess the reason what made me raise the question to begin with is because I think the flow of traffic, you have a very good handle on it. And I think you have a good handle on what you're saying in terms of the two driveways. And I think all that works out okay. My concern is that across the street is a gas station. And I mean, I've go through that intersection on a daily basis. You have traffic not only coming from the main road feeding onto Main Street there, but you have the gas station, people cutting across the lane to get into the gas station and people cutting across the lane to get out of the gas station. And so you have two driveways, not exactly lined up, but both feeding in and out at the same time with the addition of the regular traffic that's coming. I know with the gas station, for example, that road, as you know, is 2 lanes that turns into 3 lanes at the gas stations because a turn right lane only. And when a car is going to go in, let's say he's coming from Aldi's up to the gas station, he may have to stop, or she may have to stop to get in there, which backs up traffic on the other side. It just seems like everything you're saying is absolutely correct, but without taking into consideration the other driveway on the other side that's feeding into the same road, and that is an active gas station. That isn't, 8 or 10 or 20 or 25. It may be more in the 100 or plus range that's not being figured into the equation. And that's my concern. I have no problem with the project and the way it's all designed. My concern is with the gas station across the street that doesn't have a driveway. It just has a very wide edge that you can get in at any point where you want to. And that may skew whatever it is you're trying to do, may skew the traffic up a little bit. Well, that's just my thought.
I understand. I mean, I wasn't involved with the review of the gas station. I'm,
Right.
looking at
understand.
at this application.
I understand. You're doing exactly what you have to do, and I think you've done a good job. I'm just saying that, being a resident of Branford, using that gas station, seeing other people use that gas station, using those roads, that gas station with nothing, no other traffic coming onto that main road creates its own problem. And even, when we look about, the safety issue, that no one can determine what happens with the gas station. They're not being under review. That's maybe part of the problem, but there's nothing we can do about that. But I'm just saying that's a part of this equation that's not being looked at. And there are reasons why it's not being looked at. I don't think anybody's being negligent, but I think it could skew what the safety that we're trying to create here is. It could just be skewed. But that's my thought.
The other thing that was looked at as part of the applicant's traffic study was the crash data. Tim could elaborate on that, but I don't recall. I mean, there's safety concerns, and there's actually accident and crash. Where that actually happened. I don't think there was anything that was pointed out that was a high accident location. Looking at the roadways, even though your experience is 100% valid. What you're saying, that you may have noticed, some unsafe maneuvers or some concerns, but nothing showed up quantified in the accident and the crash data.
Yeah, see, my concern is that you're right. There probably are no accidents here because everybody's kind of going the same direction or stops. When you have two different businesses feeding into the same road, almost face to face, that's a whole different scenario. But again, I'm not a traffic guy, but I'm just saying what I see and what I've observed.
And I just think that's why it's important too that this was changed to a right interval. If it wasn't, then I think that would be a greater concern, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I can jump in as well, we actually did take into account the driveways from the gas station in our driveway refinement, I'll say, and reducing it down to a right in, right out. I feel that actually the critical bit here in this case is the addition of the intersection site distance plan for the exiting turning movement. So I will re-screen share so I can kind of demonstrate what I am discussing here. So specifically, I think you're referring to kind of the large curb cut in this location.
Correct.
So the limited traffic that we will have, the 20 customers a day, give or take, the primary concern is the potentially, cross driveway scenario. All of this traffic from leaving our development would be taking a right out in this driveway configuration. And they're stopped at this driveway. They have full sight lines to look both across towards the gas station and up the road. So any traffic that may be trying to exit here, people leaving this site will have the ability to see them and react accordingly. And the other piece is the lanes immediately adjacent to the gas station here, they're all heading towards Route 1. We don't impact at all any of those movements. And we also removed that left in so that any of that traffic that was coming down towards the intersection and could have taken a left into the site, that has now been removed to remove one potential conflict point that was here. So we did do everything that we can, and we do have the adequate sight lines to ensure that drivers have the ability to see and react accordingly to any traffic coming in and out of the fuel station.
Okay, thank you.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Fred. Any further questions or comments from commission members or staff before we open up to the public?
Yeah, real quick, Chuck, Massimo Ligori here. I just want to say again, and I said this at the last meeting, I actually own the house a couple of driveways up from that property there. And although, I think these guys did a great job with trying to make this project work, the reality of it is that every time I pulled out of that house I owned, and it was further up the street a little bit, probably a little less dangerous. It was very difficult. It's just very unsafe. I don't think there's a worse piece of property to put a business like that on in the whole town of Branford. The safety concern is really big to me. And I understand that the property, is suited, can be suited for this type of project, regardless of who your neighbors are, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is. But the safety factor here is huge. I wouldn't want to be the owner of the parcel next door. If I owned that piece of property, I would be very upset that was going on. I think that has to be brought into consideration. And most of all, it's the safety. Pulling out of there is going to be a nightmare. That's guaranteed. I lived it, I've seen it, and I drove it. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Massimo. Any other questions, comments from commission members before we open up the public? Okay, let's open up the public. Any member of the public wish to comment? Evan, remind us.
Please select the raise hand button down at the bottom of your screen or type into the chat that you'd like to participate. First up is Annette C.
Hi, everybody. Still Annette Chawaniak, and I live at 81 Main Street, the property that's on the more or less next door to this project. And I have to echo what I just heard. There was an awful lot of planning that went into this, into the revisions, and I appreciate the work that was done. And I can appreciate all the work on the sight lines and everything else about stopping distance and being able to see traffic coming and going. The thing is the traffic in that corner. There is so much of it that comes out constantly. And I live it on a daily basis, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the middle of the day, whenever. It just happens on a regular basis, trying to get out of here, even sometimes taking a right-hand turn, going towards town is a struggle. And now we're going to have more cars coming from the right, blocking either turn, either way of me trying to get out of my driveway at 81 Main Street. I'm sorry, I wish I could feel more secure about this project. I don't, because I just see it as just one more way that my quality of life is being crowded. I'm not going to go on any further than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to comment? Evan, you see anybody?
I do not see anyone, but I do see a Miss Aries trying to signal she's trying.
Hey, sorry. I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself or raise my hand. Do I understand that it's only going to be a right in and a right out? So does that mean that people are going to have to come from Route 1 to get in?
Yes, I think Mr. Hooley is shaking his head yes.
Okay, how the heck is that going to happen? I'm sorry. That's going to take a lot of maneuvering if somebody decides to do it and they're coming from the completely opposite direction. I live that intersection every day too, and especially from Aldi's, there's often a green arrow on that red light, so you can take a right almost all the time. And I don't know. I don't know. It's tired. We've all been doing this for a long time now, and I'm getting tired too. And I'm not being very articulate, but I just see a lot of traffic problems and a lot of congestion. And I don't know who spoke about it earlier. It was the woman who spoke at the very beginning. I think she's on the commission. Whatever she said, I totally agree. So that's really what I wanted to say. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Evan, anyone else? Any other public comment that you see?
I do not see anybody else.
Okay. Any further questions from commission members or staff? Does the applicant wish to address any public comment or make any additional comments?
Yes. So I would ask that the commission keep in mind that this parcel is zoned for a commercial style use. It is not zoned for any residential like single family or two family home. And that this specific use is just about the lowest traffic generator that you could have within a commercial use. You know, we're talking 20 trips per day. That's an average of approximately 2 cars per hour. So, you know, while we definitely understand the concerns for traffic, but I think, you know, one of the items that might be possibly being pinned to this project relatively, you know, we feel fairly unjustifiably is we understand the roadway, this intersection itself has some traffic concerns. However, this project itself is going to have literally no impact on the total volume seen here. We're talking two cars per hour for an average. And that if it is deemed that this use is not suitable here, that's essentially, we feel, determining that this property is completely undevelopable because of the traffic situations here. We do feel we are sensitive to the fact that this is a challenging location, but we do feel that this unique development is the best option to put here because it is such a low traffic generator. And we have reduced it to a right in, right out. We verified we have all of the sight lines needed. So we feel we've done everything that is possible to render a site like this usable and still develop something that is viable for all users on the roadway.
Chuck and share. Thank you. Any other comments from commission members? And if there aren't, we'll close this matter as a public hearing. Hearing nothing. Okay, we'll close this matter as a public hearing. Thank you very much. And with that, I think that's it for our public hearings. Okay. What time is it? 10:49. I love it. Okay, let's see how far we got. And we still have some new business to consider too. Let's discuss, see if we can do anything on the public hearings or see how far we got for the public hearings. The first one was items number 3 and 4. That's 13 and 23 North Main Street, a special exception for auto body repair. We had some discussions about this. Evan, can you pull up your staff report? Again, this is I think it was actually a change of use that we're going here. there was a number of applications. It's an automotive motor vehicle service. And the two applications here were the special exception and the special exception for parking. The issues that were brought up, the concerns I think raised by commission members were, hey, how is it that we have this two-family dwelling in the middle of this? You know, it doesn't seem the compatibility of uses. The neighbors brought up, the neighbor to the north brought up concerns about the parking in the rear, the dumpster location, and then the blockage of the possible blockage of the lanes. And then I think Fred brought up the issue of possibly checking with the fire marshal to ensure that this is and that it's a safety issue, particularly since there's residences in the back. So anyway, that's kind of that's my recollection, at least, of where we are. We did have a staff report. I think Evan had raised a couple of issues he would like to, if we determine that the intent of the regulations regarding the greenbelt buffer will be served by the proposed landscaping and fence installation. So because there's very limited area, so I think it makes sense to me to put a vinyl fence. That's the better way to handle it there. And then the whole waive compliance with some of the front and rear yard landscaping. They've done what they can essentially, but it's difficult, and so we would have to make a finding regarding that. So so the question is, we close the public hearing. That means we should, our options are we should act to approve or deny the application, or delay or revise it, the conditions. Do people feel they're ready to vote on this thing, I guess? And Evan has prepared a staff recommendation, and I assume this would cover both applications, Evan, is that right? I think it does. Okay, so we'd make the application to adopt this resolution with respect to both special permit applications. So let's go around and see where we are. Joe Chadwick, thoughts?
I'm generally in favor of this. As I said before, the permitting process will have the fire marshal involved. The dwelling units don't particularly bother me because they are rentals. Someone coming to rent the units, it will be obvious to them where they are renting and the degree to which it will suit their purposes. Chances are they're going to be gone most of the day while activities are going on at the detailing operation. So I don't see coincident use there as a compelling fault for it. I did wish I could see more traffic patterns and arrangement of parking on site, but I trust that's all going to be worked out. And I believe everything else could be worked out within the permitting process.
I don't know if we need to add any conditions about the safety or fire marshal inspection, or do you think that automatically would happen as part of the building permit sign off?
Well,
let me see. What'd you say, Evan or Harry?
Harry Smith, town planner. Given this is sort of a retroactive approval, I don't know if they're going to be proposing anything that require a new building permit at this point. They might, but in order to get to do what's shown on the site plan, I don't think they need any further building permits. So that's something maybe to keep in mind. I just jotted down some possible language for a condition, I guess, for 4.4, which would be any recommendations okay. Any recommendations from the fire marshal regarding need for addition of fire lanes or other modifications to the site plans? Just as in lieu of anything else, it's pretty broad ranging, but We
Could
could
you repeat that, Harry?
Any recommendations from the fire marshal regarding a need for addition of fire lanes or other modifications to the site plans?
And I need it one more time. It's 11 p.m.
Oh, yeah, no problem. So this would be a 4-4, the very last thing at the end of the report.
Sure.
Adding in, and this would something, the preamble here is the following shall be addressed to satisfaction of the town planner as designee. And it would read any recommendations from the fire marshal regarding a need for addition of fire lanes or other modifications to the site plans.
Well, instead of additional, I just put designated.
Okay.
Need for designated fire lanes.
Yeah, it's better. Thank you. And I would suggest one more sentence in number 2. All currently non-compliant pole or building mounted light fixtures shall be brought in conformance with the zoning regulations.
I had added any existing non-compliant lighting would need to be replaced with compliant lighting.
That sounds good too.
Okay. And we'll just continue making rounds. Joe, so you're good with these additions, right?
Yes, I was under the impression that there would be permitting involved for the other, at least some of the buildings on site.
Right.
So thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, great. Fred.
No, I'm good. I just want to make sure we cover our bases, that someone gets a last look at this. That's all. I'm okay with the plan. I don't have any objections with that. But my concern was that what the adjoining property owner said. She said that, she said it could be an issue, and I just want to make sure it's not an issue on our part. So I'm fine with the way the proposal is and what's just been put in, what's just been added. I'm good.
Great. Joe Vayuso?
I've got to unmute him. Sorry. Hang on.
I can stop sharing, Harry.
That would help, but so there he is. There he is. Okay, sorry.
Okay, I'm good.
Oh.
Overall, I agree with Fred and Joe. This site, it's really cleaning. It's cleaning it up, because one of those buildings used to be an old welding business for many years, and that whole site now I think is much better off, much cleaner, much nicer. And so I think I'm in agreement with everybody that it's overall it's a good improvement.
Great. Thanks, Joe. Marcy?
I know this is not like me, but I'm going to be the one dissenting opinion tonight on this. I'm just not comfortable with the residential uses and the overall quantity of cars. I feel like even though it's looks a lot nicer and they're trying to do some improvements, I don't think it's the right fit for this location, given that it's a gateway into town, that we have, all these other traffic issues going on in the area being proposed.
Great. Chuck Andrews, chair. Thanks, Marcy. I'm good with this. I think it's an improvement from the site. I think the houses are pre-existing. They've been there before with other businesses. I like the sidewalks. I like the improved landscaping. I like the fence. I like that they're putting the trees behind the line, so the cars are less likely to spill onto the front. So I think it's an improvement. So I'm good with it. So I guess can you pull back up the staff resolution, Evan? Put back on the screen, and we can maybe take a vote. Okay, so this is with respect to both applications. So this resolution would cover, This resolution will cover both applications, and you know what? I'm gonna have to switch after this because my computer is going, I'm gonna have to go on my phone. My work student work. Someone make a motion to approve both of these applications by adopting the staff recommended findings and conditions as amended.
Fred Roos will make that motion.
A motion by Fred. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Second by Chadwick. Any further discussion? All in favor? Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick in favor.
Fred?
Fred's in favor.
Joe Vayuso? Please unmute.
Muted.
Oh, sorry, let me get him again. Where is he?
You are unmuted.
Joe Vayuso approves.
Marcy?
Marcy denies.
And chairs in favor. So the applications are approved, 4-1 vote. Okay, so next item is the Stony Creek Village Amendment. The Architectural Review Board, suggested by the Architectural Review Board. Do we want to talk about this? We can. It's a pretty simple amendment, actually, but I think that my computer may be about to go off, so I'm going to go on to the phone. So can we take a 2-minute recess while I log off and log back on? Of
course.
Thank you.
Before that, who seconded the motion on 13 and 23?
Joe Chadwick.
Chadwick.
Thank you.
I did.
Thank you.
Okay. Hold on. I'm going to the phone. 8. Yeah, my work is doing tonight. They said, yeah, leave your computers on because we're going to do IT work on them. So at 11, no one's going to be on your computer at 11, right?
Well, they don't know this P&Z.
Right.
It'll be the first time.
Maybe they're late.
Make you work hard today, Harry.
Well, you know.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
That's right.
I agree.
One thing I might suggest is with respect to the amendments to the Stony Creek Village District regulations, pending working out the details, I will likely be working a little bit part-time after my quote retirement date, the end of next week. So I am certainly willing to come and be a resource for deliberations if the commission wants to take it up at the next meeting or a meeting after that. You do have 65 days to decide on the application, so I just throw that out there.
You gotta mute Chuck.
Yeah,
He's talking, but nothing's going on.
I got to make him a co-host.
Oh yeah, okay.
So hang on a second.
There you go. There he is.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
So I think you disappeared, so I'll just reiterate that. Pending working out some details, I will apparently be doing some part-time work after my quote-unquote retirement date, the end of next week. So just in terms of the Stony Creek Village District proposed amendments, I can come to a future meeting to at least be there as a resource while you deliberate on that, if you want that.
Okay, thanks. Let's make do we want to vote on this tonight? That's sort of one question. I mean, it's not that complicated an amendment. It basically reduces the threshold of the size of the building that triggers a review by the Architectural Review Board. And applications that would come before the commission too. Because if they say, I think it potentially increases stuff that would come before our commission too. If they disagree with it, if they change something, a single family that's a lower threshold, and they don't just sign off on it, then it would come before us, right?
That's correct.
So it potentially increases somewhat the stuff that comes before us too. So, and the main arguments for it are that it's sort of Stony Creek is unique, and this is they want to help preserve it. That when you go to Stony Creek, this is what you buy into, and this is what the recommendation of the Stony Creek Association is. They want to keep it that way. It's a beautiful part of town. That's what village districts do. They do allow that type of review, and the majority seem to want to do that. The arguments against it is that these are single family houses, and those are things that you typically have the most private property rights. Why are you messing with that? Why were you trying to regulate what I can and can't do with my house? So, can you hear me? For some reason, I'm getting an echo.
No, I think that's Joe Vayuso, but do you want to say something, Joe, because you have your hand up?
I just wanted to say that overall Stony Creek is basically built on smaller lots and smaller homes, and 2,000 square feet is not that small either. But 3,500 is quite big, I think, for that area. So lowering it a little bit so they can have some input on something less at 3,500 feet is I think reasonable. But so basically, I'm saying is in an area that, like Chuck was saying, it's a village. It's a lot of smaller homes. 2,000, 2,500 square foot threshold. I think should be lowered at the very least 1,000 square feet from 35 to 25. So I'm in agreement to have it at least reduced a little bit, so they can have more input on what goes on in the neighborhood.
Great,
or in the village.
Thanks, Joe. Since we're talking about it, we may as well do it. Joe Chadwick.
I've talked about this an awful lot before, so I'm not going to burden everybody with the lateness of the hour. I am in favor, and this was something that they requested, and we're not imposing upon them. So I see this as an easy yes.
Thanks, Joe. Fred, I know you express opposition.
Yeah, I don't oppose the group for what they stand for, what they do. I think they do a great job, but I am concerned that they're an advisory board. They don't have any, power to do anything. Anyone that goes before them has got to do it on their own volition. And even if they move down there, and someone may not want to be involved with an organization. I'm just saying in general. I would vote against it, not because of the organization. They can do what they have to do. I think they have lots of opportunities to do that. And the other last thing, again, I feel like John, I don't want to burden you too much, but the last thing is that in the 10 or 12 years they've been in existence, there's been no major problems the way this thing is run. They may not have seen everything, but there's no one come back and said this, hey, they're putting these big buildings up and we have no say in it. There's been no pushback on all that stuff. So why fix something that's not broken?
Thanks, Fred. Marcy?
I live in the area, so I would tend to disagree with Fred just because I know of personal things just from my observation. I think there's a garage being converted right now. I mean, we've probably, I think far too many times we're not seeing the architecture on these site plans, so it makes it really hard to address the bulk requirements. And when you have so many older, smaller houses on small lots with a lot of pressure to expand them, I think we just have to be very deliberate about how it happens if we're going to preserve the character of the neighborhood. And I'm not trying to take away the rights of the homeowner. They're not requiring them to hire architects or anything like that. They're offering free advice and recommendations. Obviously, there's a little bit of pressure that comes along with that. And maybe homeowners, don't want to spend some of the extra money, but at least gives them an education to the area and what is involved. And I think it's a good process, and I encourage it.
Thanks, Marcy. I'm in favor. I think this is a local call. I think this is what some village districts are. They authorize a more detailed type of review than you normally do. If there's a place in Branford where you should have it, this is one of them. We also have the village center or the center, but you know, if the majority seems to say, hey, this is what we want Stony Creek to be, this is what we want it to be in the future, and you have an association that wants that further review and basically requires more regulation of themselves, then so be it. I mean, I'm willing to agree with that because I think they are all excellent. They do provide expertise, and I think the end product, it does infringe on some freedoms, but it probably has a decent result, and it conforms with the community expectations and what people should know those expectations are if they buy in Stony Creek. So with that, it sounds like we probably have a consent. It won't be unanimous, but Harry, can you pull up the amended reg?
Sure. So you should be able to see my screen. The amended reg is attached to a memorandum from myself to the commission members dated November 6th, and it is entitled Proposed Amendments to Branford Zoning Regulations with Town Planner Proposed Modifications in blue text dated November 6th, 2024. And I don't think there was any discussion about making any changes to this. But just to reiterate, it crosses out the entries in the 3 sections under 5.8F for two-family dwellings, as well as, well, frankly, number 1 should be crossed out as well, and I did not do that. But it's almost redundant because that is required to be a special exception approval anyway. But I would suggest crossing out 1, 2, 2, 2, and 3, 1, and 3, and making the other changes to add a 2A in the text as shown on the document.
Okay. Which additional one were you crossing out? The
3.1, dwellings containing 3 to 4
Right.
dwelling units. That's already a special exception use.
Okay. So, okay. Everyone understand that? Yeah, the only reason for the amendments is because the existing text didn't reflect the later amendments that we made that made this sort of obsolete. So this is sort of just bringing everything up to date.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Plus
Okay.
changing the thing to 2,000 from 3,100.
Right. Would someone want to make a motion to approve this amendment with the finding that it's consistent with the plan of conservation and development and the comprehensive plan with an effective date of when, Harry?
Effective day, let's say December 1st.
Of December 1st.
Chadwick makes that motion.
Motion by Joe Chadwick. Is there a second? I'll second it. Okay. All those in favor? Joe Chadwick?
Joe Chadwick is in favor.
Fred?
Out of respect for the Stony Creek Architectural Review Board, I will abstain.
Okay. Abstain. Joe Viuzzo? Can we get, is Joe on here?
He is on, I believe.
Gotta unmute him.
Yeah, I'm tracking him down.
You are unmuted.
Great, hold on.
I'm on. Joe Vayuso moves to approve.
Okay. Joe's in favor. Marcy?
Marcy's in favor.
And Chair's also in favor. So that regulation is adopted. Okay, the last item, public hearing items were 1201 West Main Street. The motor sheet, the oil change place. So maybe we should have a little discussion about that. My sense, well, let's go around. I'll go in reverse. Marcy, I know I was calling you last one. I'm calling you first. Mix them up.
I think there's a lot of issues. I think they've admirably been very admirable in trying to propose something to work there, but sometimes you just can't fit 10 pounds of potatoes in a 2-pound bag. Aside from the traffic issues, you're stripping the site, you're excavating the site tremendously. You're removing large trees that are going to take generations to replace. And, to me, the way to make that traffic work would have been to coordinate something through with the Aldi's, and then I would have been more inclined to overlook the impact to the grade and the trees. But it's just very hard to, accept all of it at once for 20 cars to get their oil changed when the world is heading towards more of an electric car usage. So I would be not in favor.
Thanks, Marcy. Joe Vayuzo?
Man, I gotta mute him again.
Poor Joe.
I know. Oh, there he is. Okay, got it.
You are unmuted.
I'm sorry, I don't know what's happening tonight. We never had this problem before. But anyway, I don't know. I have a feeling that someone owns a piece of property, and they do have a right to develop it. So in that context, they are developing it with the least amount of usage, like they said, and they did the best they could with that driveway. I'm not, believe me, I think it's a very poor. I don't want to use the word poor, but it is poor place to put anything there. But with that driveway in such a dangerous area, but they did do the right in, right out. That's the best they can do. But at the same time, people coming from the other side, how do they get in? It's going to be a little bit cumbersome to do the circle, to do that right in, right out situation. I'm all over the fence on this one, but my gut tells me they do have the right to develop a piece of property, and that particular site is being developed with the least amount of evasive use. So if it was me, I would vote. I would approve it, even though I'm reluctant to do so. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Fred?
I feel very strongly like Marcy, but I also feel very strongly like Joe. I would, this is a very, very difficult piece of property. It's really unique in that respect, and I think the applicant did an excellent job doing his homework to get this thing in front of us. I would wish that maybe the town could buy the property and just take it off the market. They have a rainy day fund. Maybe the applicant should go there and say, listen, we've got a very difficult piece of property. It's not, really not developable. I don't think it is, really, though I feel like Joe, as a property owner, they have a right to develop it. But the conditions that it would take to make this thing work are really stretching it. And so I would almost, and I know it's been done in the past where the town has stepped in and said, hey, this is a real safety issue. Here's how we have to correct it. And let the town buy the property from the applicant and put it to bed. This way, no one ever gets to use it. And we never have to deal with this problem again. So at this stage of the game, I'm not in favor of the project because of the safety issues.
Thanks, Fred. Joe Chadwick?
Yeah, I hate to sort of jump on a bandwagon, but the effort to effect ratio to make this work, and it doesn't really work all that well, is kind of disturbing. This is like an excellent business that can go more easily just about anywhere else in town. I mean, there are a handful of places on Route 1 with minimal work. You can just drop this use in, and they could be changing oil, in a month from now. At this point, between the site work and the grade changing and the loss of trees, and then we end up with those curb cuts, and we're messing up the next couple properties for their curb cuts. It's not good. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Joe. In terms of me, I'm with Joe Vayuso. I frankly think that if they meet the regulations, I think that we even took the main issue in my mind was the traffic, the turning in, and it's even a little bit beyond our jurisdiction. It's the state that regulates it because it's a state road. But I said, go out and get our own independent traffic review. You do your own, get an independent traffic review. And our independent traffic reviewer looked at all the things and they were okay with it. So between the fact that it complies with the regulations, it's a commercial zone, it does have 20 trips a day, that's not a lot. And they've done the one way in and one way out. The sight lines work, everything else work. I have a problem denying that. I don't think anything that's been mentioned. Sure, you remove trees. You do that for any site development. That's where I'm coming down. That as much as I don't like it, and I would love the town to buy it, but that they meet the regulations, and that's our criteria. So I can't. I would be reluctantly in favor, but I think that's the criteria that I would work on. So,
Chuck, if I could add one more traffic discussion.
Sure.
It's Marcy speaking. The exit to the right is coming out sharply to the right, and you're coming in from a bend to the left. I liken it to leaving Ivy Street and taking a right-hand turn onto Brushy Plains. It's very difficult to turn and look over your left shoulder to find, to see that sightline. It's a very awkward motion. And, I just don't think that's a comfortable motion. And then when you think about what traffic will tend to do to get into the site from the opposite directions, any way they go, you're circling in an already congested area and forcing traffic to go through Cherry Street and around, or to cut through Honey Spot. And I recall that there were plans on the table to potentially realign Main Street through Honey Spot or something along those lines. That I think that option is still out there, which creates other difficulties for projects coming onto Route 1 as this one, which I don't even think that came up in the discussion. I don't know if they were aware of that, but I recall this from a while ago about trying to fix that intersection, and it's like one of the reasons why I'm being very difficult around all the development at that intersection tonight is, the way Route 1 Main Street comes into this exit 53, it still hasn't been thoroughly resolved, and I think in coming years we're gonna see proposals to fix that, and this only makes it more difficult. So I just don't think the timing's there.
Thanks, Marcy. I know there's been talk about that, and there's been talk about realigning exit 53 for the last 25 years. I don't know if I mean this is what we have. I have a problem when our own traffic expert says it's okay, that the sightlines are issues, that they've addressed the standards for safety, of saying I don't like it. I mean I don't like it, but I mean that a develop they have the right to develop their land. I mean that's kind of it. I mean I get it, but that's where I'm at. In any event, we can. My suggestion is, I don't know if people want to think about it, but if we want to just decide it, someone make a motion to approve the staff recommendations, because it's very detailed. And if that fails, then it's denied. That may be a way to call the question, I guess.
Harry Smith, town planner, would you want to have some kind of written recommendation for denial, or not?
Well, I
mean, I can't do that right now, but
I think technically you should do the motion to approve first.
Yep.
I mean that's technically the way you go, because
no, yeah.
in theory, you could say, I make this motion to approve and it gets denied, and someone can say, well, I'll add another condition and it's approved. Whereas if you do deny, it's done. But someone could make a motion to deny it, but you got to give reasons. And what are the reasons, guys? I mean, I don't,
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is, your latest attorney a court would search the record for the reasons if you don't state them, but.
Right, yeah, and.
You've stated reasons, but,
Right.
it's all up to you, how, the
And
commission wants to proceed.
I think that's just maybe a cleaner way to go.
Okay. I would suggest, just point of clarity, assuming maybe the motion gets adopted, there are a couple of tweaks to the proposed findings and recommendations. So I would suggest in 11F that could be removed because apparently almost all the plantings are natives. In that condition 12C, after the word survival of plant materials, insert the words for a period of 1 year. And in condition 16 at the end, after the close quote, say specifically drive-through oil changes and the following products: wiper blades, air filters, cabin air filters, coolant exchanges, and fuel injection cleaner.
Okay. And I know, can you just, I know you.
Put it up there? Yeah.
Yeah, put it up.
So everybody should be able to see it. I can show you the suggested changes. We went through everything, but we're talking about 11. So we'll be taking this one out, F. It's highlighted. Okay. Going to the next page. 12C, right here, after survival plant materials, insert the words for a period of 1 year, which follows a state statute. And right here, so we lose the period after the quotes, say specifically drive-through oil changes and the following products: wiper blades, air filters, cabin air filters, coolant exchanges, and fuel injection cleaner, which are the exact words from the statement of use. And leave the EV things in because they're actually going to do that. So they would show that in the plan.
Okay. Great. So my suggestion, again, is someone make the motion. We get the motion on the floor and then we can just vote on it. So someone make a motion to adopt the staff recommendation as amended to approve the application with the conditions. And make sure Joe's unmuted.
Right. Yeah. And the findings, correct?
Right. The findings and the conditions as amended, right.
All right, I'm going to stop the share so I can find Joe.
You are unmuted.
Okay, I'm back.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, does someone want to make that motion? Does no one want to make that motion? Well, I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion that we approve the application by adopting the findings and conditions as amended. Is there any seconds? Is there
I'll
a
second, Joe second.
Joe Vayusin seconds. Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the application with the staff recommendation conditions. Okay, let's vote on that. Joe Chadwick, how do you vote?
Joe Chadwick is not in favor.
Okay. Joe Chadwick opposed. Fred Russo?
Not in favor.
Fred Russo opposes. Joe Vayuso?
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Joe Vayuso in favor. Marcy?
Marcy is opposed.
Marcy opposed. The chair is in favor. So that application fails. Does anyone want to, if we do nothing else, I think the application is just deemed denied. But if someone wants to make a motion to deny the application, we could do that. But yeah, you should give reasons if you want to do that, though. If you do nothing, the application is deemed denied.
I think we leave it like that.
Okay.
So we'll just leave it as a denied motion. The motion to approve got denied. So application, no further action. Is that right? No one wants to make another motion to deny? Is that right? Can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
I can't say nothing.
Okay, so then.
I can hear you, but I don't understand the subtlety of an affirmative motion to deny when we've declined an affirmative motion to accept.
It's a legal thing, right?
Yeah, if we do nothing else, it's denied. Technically, someone can make another motion to approve and add 5 more conditions and say, aha, and maybe convince somebody who said otherwise. Well, what if we put additional signage that you can't make any or something? I'm being totally ridiculous. So that would be another way to do it. But you don't have to do it. If we do nothing, I think it's denied. And that's what it seems like it is. I'm taking that to mean that no one wants to make that motion, a explicit motion denied. I believe it's deemed denied, so we can move on
Can I
to approval of minutes.
Can you guys hear me?
At this point, Jeff, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards about any questions, but the whole thing is closed. I don't know. Can we talk after, since it's already been voted on? Is that okay, Chuck? Can he talk?
We can, but I don't want to do it now. I want to finish our meeting.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the action's been taken, so.
My one question was if the entrance gets moved over to Route 1, would that be deemed?
Well, right. You'd have to apply again, which could be done.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Talk about that afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
So
Minutes of October 17th. Does someone make a motion to approve those?
Fred Russo will make that motion.
Motion to approve the October 17th minutes. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
All those in favor? Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo?
Fred Russo's in favor.
Joe Vayuso? And did Joe?
Yeah, he's got to be unmuted.
Got him. All right.
You are unmuted.
Joe approves.
And Marcy?
Marcy approves.
Okay. So those minutes are approved. Old business. We got public hearings for the first 3, and then number 4 is 175 Cherry Hill Road, Lot 7. Are we going to proceed with that one? It's 11:30.
Harry, could you make Zach co-host?
Yeah. Hang on a second.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, soon to be morning. My name is Zach Georgina. I'm with Giuliano Associates as a project engineer. I'm going to try and keep this as short and quick as possible. We really went into this more in depth previously at the last meeting. Let me just share my screen really quick here. We want screen 2 share. This should look vaguely familiar to everybody at this point. It's essentially the same drawing. There were a couple of comments from the town engineer that we had verbally addressed but have since been implemented, such as connecting the outflow pipe via manhole to the recently installed catch basin within the Cherry Hill right-of-way, adding clauses about cleaning out the catch basins, repairing the existing outflow from the existing catch basins. And I'm sure Evan and Harry will correct me if I've missed anything, but for the most part, we've got wetlands approval since we last met, implemented those modifications, and the intent and not the intent, the factual numbers around what was presented last meeting still stand. There hasn't been a change to the actual design of the basin or its functionality. So the flow rates that we discussed previously, essentially mimicking the retrofit to the basin to the 2021 undisturbed conditions. All that is still standing and valid, and except for a one comment from the town engineer in after the fact of all of these, essentially, and it was fair. One of the clauses, and I'll zoom right in here just to show you what we're talking about, under the construction notes with wanting to clean out the basin under general notes one on my drawing set stated the outlet of the existing Cherry Hill right-of-way stormwater system shall be cleared and stabilized. This regular maintenance shall be done once, and all future maintenance responsibilities shall return to the town of Branford. And the town engineer's comment was to amend this to essentially, if it becomes silted again due to the development on the site, that we would clean the site again. And I think that's fair. I just didn't want this to be open-ended, that it turns into the housing authority's responsibility to clean this town infrastructure going forward. That was really the intent of this. So I think that's a fair modification to this plan if it was to be approved as a condition of approval. But otherwise, the technical issues have been worked out between me and the town engineer. We had the wetlands approval, and so now it's for the commission to make that modification to the subdivision plan if so deemed. And with that, just trying to keep it quick. Harry, Evan, if you guys want to chime in with anything, staff report. I'm a-okay, trying to keep this quick and advance the plot.
Yeah, sure. I'll give a brief summary. I had requested 2 items to be added to the plans: erosion controls downhill from the basin and the fence and access gate around the basin as well. Both were added. Received inland wetlands approval, or the inland wetland agent approval, and they satisfied all the town engineer's comments. So I sent out a memo to you guys yesterday, just echoing these conditions that I had recommended in my staff report. I'll just bring that up very quickly now.
You snagged
2
it back.
findings. The first, that the special exception criteria are satisfied. The second, that this applies exclusively to the changes shown on the plan that Zach just had up for us, detention basin reconfiguration plan. And 4 conditions. All conditions of the previous approval shall remain in full force and effect. 2, prior to the start of construction, erosion control measures shall be installed. Any additional measures deemed necessary by the zoning enforcement officer shall be installed, and the applicant shall clean out the existing stormwater system adjacent to and running beneath Cherry Hill Road that they propose to connect with. And I can keep that up if. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Chuck. I got you.
Thanks. I'm back on my computer. Okay, so anyone have any questions? So can we make a motion to approve the application then?
Marcy will make a motion to approve the application as presented.
Motion made to approve by Marcy. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Second, Joe Chadwick. Further discussion? All those in favor? Joe Chadwick.
Joe Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo.
In favor.
Joe Vayuso.
I'm trying to find them. Okay.
You are unmuted.
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy.
Marcy's in favor.
And chair's also in favor. So the application's approved.
Thank you for your time.
And now moving on, I think number 5 also is a public hearing to new business. Item number 1, 45 Seaview Avenue. Is this something we should do? Evan, you gave us a staff report. Is it quick?
Yes, the architect Vivian is here, but I can briefly describe the project if you'd like.
Yes.
Harry, could you make Vivian a co-host? I can actually share the site plan.
Okay, all set.
And is Vivian unmuted?
Yeah. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
So the applicant's before us today. This is on Seaview Avenue, just across the street from the Long Island Sound. They're elevating the structure that exists there today. It's a single-family home. They're adding a stair in the back and an enclosed ADA lift here on this side of the property. They received a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals in October for lot coverage, and they're triggering a CAM application as it's a single family home less than 100 feet away from the mean high water line. And they are making some additional site plan changes on top of that. We sent the application to Deep for comment. We have not heard anything back. And I had recommended the following conditions. One, that the plan is consistent with the goals and policies of the Coastal Area Management Act. That erosion control measures would have to be installed prior to the start of construction to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer, and any other measures deemed necessary by the ZEO must be installed, as well as any lighting has to be compliant with section 6.7.
Great. Anyone have any questions? Seems pretty straightforward. If not, does someone want to make a motion to approve the application?
Chadwick makes that motion.
Motion by Joe Chadwick to approve. Is there a second?
Fred Russo seconds it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Again, it's approval by adopting the findings and conditions in the staff report.
You are unmuted.
All those in favor? Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick is in favor.
Fred?
Fred's in favor.
Joe? Viuso?
Joe in favor.
Marcy?
Marcy's in favor.
And the chair is also in favor. So application approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
And items 2 and 3, we can skip those. We need to schedule public hearings. And then we go to other business. Item number 1 is a bond establishment. My understanding is that the town engineer was looking for a little more information before we act on that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so we'll skip on number 1. Number 2, approval of the 2025 meeting schedule. I think you sent that out in our packet. And
you could do it now, you could do it the next meeting. It's still fine.
okay. Anyone have any thoughts? You want to wait? Okay, we can wait on that. And then take a look at it, and then we'll just vote at the next meeting. We don't have to do it yet. The planners report.
I really have nothing at this extremely late hour to offer you. I will probably be working part-time pending resolution of some of the details, so I'll be seeing you at a future meeting, I expect. Otherwise, it's been awfully nice to know you all.
Okay, and this is Harry's last official meeting. That is but it sounds like he's going to be back before us. So we will, one thing we do want to do though is we talked about this before. We want to take Harry out. So Harry, I'm going to ask you
dinner.
For dinner at someplace spiffy and like Thimble Islands or something. Who knows? But we'll figure that out. But Harry, I'm going to send you an email. Give me 3 or 4 dates. I'll circulate it. We'll get a date. We can all do it, and we can make it official, and it'll be great. And see each other in person, which we never do. So, so that'll be coming.
Are you gonna roast him, Chuck?
Oh man, I'm getting my script ready. Remember that application where you said, forget it. So
interrogate them, not roast them.
Yeah. So, but you're going to be. It sounds like. Thank God. I mean, look at this. 11:45. Jeez. So,
hoping to make the transition a little bit easier for everyone. So
yeah,
anyway.
no, we definitely need it. It's been great. So, anything else from anyone?
Chuck, I believe the
I'd like
applicants
to say
for
thank you
the
to
bond
Harry
release.
for all the work he's done for the commission and helping us commissioners understand the law better. I think he's very, very thorough in what he does. I'm not sure what he's going to do for his retirement. I have a feeling he's still going to be working somewhere, doing something, and I wish he was still doing it with us. But whatever your path takes you, good luck and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Fred.
Thanks. Tim Lee, what do you got? What's he here?
I think you already skipped over Tim's item because he was related to the bond establishment, I believe.
Okay.
So,
yeah, guys, we're waiting for something from the town engineer on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take up a lot of your time. So we understand the town engineer is looking for an as-built before
Right.
you guys, but we're here on a bond reduction, not a bond release. So if you look at the regulations.
the bond has never been established. That's incorrect. It's never been established. The amount was voted on by the commission, but the actual bond itself, in terms of providing of the money, it was never done. So we're modifying the old bond establishment. It's my opinion, but.
Oh, okay. Harry, so my understanding, and Harry knows more than me, was that the bond was established, and Zach did submit a letter dated October 22nd, and the bond was established in the amount of $915,000. The applicant was not required to post a bond because under the changes to the subdivision statute, you're not required to post a bond to start work on the site. However, you are required to post a bond at the time you want to convey lots out. So the applicant has done the site work, the majority of the site work. There's still some outstanding issues, but we are asking for a bond reduction, not a bond release. And we're asking for a bond reduction to reduce the bond from $916,000 down to basically $125,000 on the basis that that work has been done.
Well, I thought that maybe it's on the ASBIL. We want to confirm that the work has been done. I want someone to tell me that the work has been done from the town that we could authorize it, and I don't have that yet.
I appreciate that. So I guess the discussion we wanted to have tonight was whether we have to do an as-built for purposes of the bond reduction or not, because that's a significant expense for the applicant and time consuming. So I think we can demonstrate to you, whether it's tonight or next week, 2 weeks from now, that the work has been done. We have approval from the RWA, we have approval from the health department, that type of thing. What we're trying to avoid, well, the discussion we wanted to have was whether we're required to do an as-built, because the way we read the regulations, you only require the as-built when it's a bond release. The job is done, you do a bond release. Right now, we're just seeking to have a bond reduction as opposed to a bond release.
Okay.
So that was the discussion we were hoping to have tonight.
Okay. Well, my suggestion is, first of all, we don't, and we're not going to vote to determine whether you've done the work to release it, because frankly, I want someone from the town to have looked at it. So go to them, and then I understand your argument. I think maybe you don't need an as-built, but we at least need something, and then we'll have to check to see if we agree that you don't need an as-built until the final release versus the reduction. But I haven't looked at that yet, but see if you can work it out between now and the next meeting.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and we'll plan on being on the agenda 2 weeks from now, and hopefully we'll have that information for you then. We just wanted to have the discussion tonight so that we could try to save 2 weeks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right.
The last thing I would like to add, if possible, is just we did submit the sign-off for pressure tests, various things from the installing company for RWA, the fire hydrants, things that are from the governing body of those utilities. With that letter, those were submitted. That should have sufficed to alleviate the town engineer's concerns on this. I mean, I just want to throw that out there, that those were submitted.
Okay. Well, let's look further between now and the next 2 weeks. Thanks. Okay. With that, anything else from anyone?
Move to adjourn?
Okay. Move to adjourn by Marcy. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Second by Joe Chadwick. Any further discussion? All in favor? Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick is an absolute favor.
Fred?
Fred's definitely in favor.
Joe Vayuzo?
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy?
Of course.
And chair's also in favor. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Bonne notte.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.